And we are back live. This is Jimmy.
This is Jarrett, and we're back again with Orktober. Please do not get a pineapple spice latte. I misspoke. I was trying to say pumpkin spice, but then I remembered orcs are mushrooms, and so yeah, maybe a truffle spice latte.
Uh, do do orcs actually eat anything
Yeah,
besides
they eat.
besides violence?
Besides violence and occasionally each other. Yeah, I think they eat.
Like meat's back on the menu, boys. Different
Yeah,
orcs.
absolutely.
That's
Different
orcs with
orcs, but it's orcs TM at the end of it.
that's the Queen's orcs. Like you've got English and you've got the Queen's English. There's orcs and then there's the Queen's orcs.
And then it's like the Queen's Spanish.
Yeah, that
Orcs.
means vosotros.
Yo
All right,
vosotros, babita.
in honor of Map, doing a little ASMR here as I get everything going in.
Clean, crisp.
Listen to that. Ah, beans. Anyway, so
It is
get us started. Get us
October,
started.
finally.
Yeah,
Yeah, so technically October soon. Orktober is when we celebrate orcs, everything orkiness, and of course Lord of the Rings, which we have some news on, but primarily we're going to be talking about Warhammer and upcoming movies and TV shows and some games as well. Because we actually have some updates on the writers and actors strike.
that's right. And I'm putting up the visual. There we go. What's the update, Jarrett?
The strike is officially over. The studios and the Actors and Writers Guilds of America have in fact reached a deal. It was we don't know the exact specifics of this deal, but it's supposed to be really good, like across the
According,
board, awesome.
yeah, according to Adam Conover's TikTok, they're getting streaming royalties. There's like a minimum requirement for the number of writers that have to be hired for certain projects. So basically, what they were asking for, some
And
people pointed out.
they also get, more importantly, a moratorium on AI generated stuff. So writers, AI cannot be part of the writers' room. They cannot use writers already the things, basically anything that they write they can't use to train AI, which was a big one right now.
Right. Uh, and I messed around with ChatGPT a little bit this week, I'll admit it. And I had it try to describe something that is like not super well known, and it couldn't do it. So really, just like at the edge, that's the edge of AI. Like it can't come up with new stuff. It can't be imaginative. So it's entirely fair that they ask for all these things.
Like, if you wanted ChatGPT to sum up the Hundred Years' War, or To Kill a Mockingbird, it probably do a pretty good job. There's a lot of content about that. But
Mhm.
if you want it to have discourse on Stannis Baratheon, stuff, there's not a lot about it, about him on the internet. It's not going to do a good job.
Just do what I do with the Chat GPT. Have it give you pep talks and words of encouragement from various fictional characters, because apparently that's where I'm at in my life. Is I need Uncle Iroh to
Aragorn.
tell me everything's all right.
Oh yeah, that would probably hit the spot right there.
But
But
I
yeah,
didn't think about Aragorn.
so that's where we are with the writers' strike. It could still happen. Technically, they are not back to work yet. They're just not striking at the moment.
Gotcha.
So that means technically we're going to be talking about upcoming movies and TV shows at this point until we get notice that it's no longer good to do that.
Yeah. So while we've got this very, very brief window, we're gonna get to the orcs eventually. But while we got this very, very brief window, because things could break down. Like things are looking good, but things could break down for SAG-AFTRA and these negotiations. So while we got this very brief window that we were saying we can talk about stuff again, I want to talk about how the One Piece on Netflix. So,
Yes.
Jarrett, have you watched this?
I have not yet, but I
I've
hear amazing
I've watched
things.
it. Yeah, I've watched it soup to nuts. I think we might owe Matt an apology.
I don't think we do. I don't think we
So
do. We gave One Piece a chance, though.
for everyone who maybe not be as caught up on the Area Nerdy One lore, Matt, our co-host, who was on previous episodes, he's going to be coming back at some point. He is obsessed with One Piece, and we have done nothing for like the past 10 years except consistently shit on One Piece to
Oh
him
yeah.
and make him feel bad about himself. A lot of character attacks, a lot of like ad hominem attacks on his
Character
personality and character.
assassinations
Yeah,
are
really
is more
character
apt.
assassination. Mudslinging, besmirchment. We've basically brought shame to him and his house because he likes One Piece.
Nepotism, Brodyism.
Now,
Oh, do good doings on nothing but good things on One Piece. Honestly, I didn't like the show. I didn't like the anime. It was
no,
the
yeah,
anime is terrible.
but Jarrett,
Yeah.
this show is so fucking fire. I don't apparently so a few reasons. Apparently, if you take One Piece and strip away all the dumb anime shit, it's a good show.
So technically, what makes One Piece, you have to turn it into fundamentally a better show.
Exactly. Yeah, you basically. But one watching the One Piece anime, I'm like, oh my god, this stuff is so stupid. Watching the One Piece live action show, I'm like, oh my god, this is so cool. Like, remember? Okay, so slight spoiler alert. I mean, this show has been out for 150 years now. So you know, Kuro of the Thousand Plans, his that arc, right? I think it's
Yeah.
the anyway. You know, he pretends to be the butler. One of our biggest complaints was like he was doing this with his glasses.
Hmm.
And we're like, what? And you're like, we're like, what the fuck was that? And then they're like, then he gets the gloves, and it's like, oh, it all comes together. But then they do like the anime thing where the side character's like, oh, and they explain the whole thing. It just stops the whole thing dead, right?
They literally, so like in that scene in the anime, he kills a character, and in his dying breath, he's like, "Oh, that's why you do that," and like such a cliche, shitty way to do it. Yeah, like I
Right.
literally figured that out, and I was like, "Oh, that's really cool how he does that," and that correlates with his character. Yeah,
And
terrible.
that, but then they do the anime thing where they explain it, what you just
Yeah,
saw, and it just grinds everything to a halt. But in this version, that doesn't happen. He kills a guy.
really.
It's super like when he like finally reveals himself with his claws. It's super scary.
Ooh,
Like that,
I just
that whole arc. They basically pared it down to the essentials and made it like horror movie inspired. It was so good.
that's cool. I That makes it sound even better. You want to
It
know a
is.
fun
It
fact?
what?
So random. So, what do you think the potential of the in the anime for that character with the the captain with the cat's paw
Yeah.
crew? What do you think his arc is in the anime?
I only saw I think the first 100 episodes basically. So I only know that they defeat him and then does he come up again?
Well, what do you think?
I would think that on I would think that they would just like basically not have him show up again. I think like you know they'd had this big event and then
Yeah, he never shows up again, but he was supposed to have this huge like they set him up in the anime to like have this whole arc and like come back like the guy they defeated, so he's gonna come back and like kind of be a recurring character. No, he just fucks off his entire crew.
yeah, I think a lot of the characters from that first season pretty much do that.
Yeah, what about Hawk? Does Hawk come back?
So I don't know. Like I said, I only saw the first 100 episodes of the anime. What I can
Yeah.
tell you is that Hawk and every person in this every adult in this cast
Yeah.
like can get it.
Oh yeah. What's the character? The samurai guy with the three swords.
Yeah, Zoro.
Oh no, yeah, Ronar Zora. I didn't understand it during the anime. I was like, everybody's in love with this dude. That's so weird. That's so stupid. Live action, one picture. I was like, yeah,
I get it.
that's that's the ticket.
And like what's so one of the things we discussed about like one of the major differences that we found between like when Rings of Power and House of the Dragon was out, like why they were like why they were so like disparate in like their feel and like the way that like the chemistry. Like you said that you could from behind the scenes you saw that all the people on House of the Dragon were like friends and liked each other and got along and were super cool, right?
Yeah.
And like that's the vibe I'm getting, like seeing all the behind the scenes and interviews of One Piece. That's the vibe I get from these people. Like that's why it's so good and the chemistry is so good. And like if you put actual actors in there rather than just like anime characters, like all of a sudden, I care. Why do I care so much?
It also helps that they really cut, like, again, they cut out a lot of the anime stuff. So now instead of like 20 episodes where nothing really happens, you kind of cut that down, and you actually have to like have good writing skills. You have to like make it concise and make sense. And I think that's kind of where they kind of went right in this too. Like it seems like all of the arcs are going really well. And also
Yeah.
Buggy the Clown, I like it. Just from like what I've seen on like other like media, he's pretty cool.
Yeah, he's funny. Like the actor, like it's funny. Like he's like a guy who he's like I keep seeing this on TikTok, like the class clown who thinks he's funny but he's not. Like that's him,
Yeah.
and it
One of
ends
the
up being funny.
anime stuff that carries over is like the Marines will have like a baseball cap, and then it'll just have like animal ears on top. They kept that for some reason. Like,
Well, they integrated the aesthetic quite nicely. Uh,
yeah.
okay, but enough about One Piece. This is Orktober, so you got anything else
Just
on the docket,
one
Jared?
one more note about One Piece. The world building that I've seen reminds me of A Series of Unfortunate Events, the movie.
It does have that feel a little bit. It has like sort of like that strange mix of old and new technology.
Yeah, I like that. That
Mm-hmm.
Do more of that, Hollywood, please. Anyway, it's
Okay.
October. Come on. We're talking about other things. Why would we do that when we could talk about the boys in the Great War?
The mighty WAAAAGH. Here
So,
we go. So we got our where are our orcs? Where are they? Oh, I see.
yeah,
So Jared, start talking about stuff.
talking about stuff. Well, we could talk about Warhammer 40K, or we could talk about Warhammer Fantasy. Personally, I'm a Warhammer Fantasy kind of guy. I like just giant dudes in armor beating on each other, and cool, like almost Game of Thrones esque fantasy, high fantasy. So the big difference between orcs of fantasy and orcs of 40K is that orcs of fantasy are kind of like your generic green horde, right? They just want to fight, they want to just
Right.
sack and loot stuff. Where they really shine, honestly, and I give props to the writers for this. In Total Warhammer 40K, they're like these Cockney British dudes who like duct tape a ship together, and they're just like, I believe it works. It's gonna work.
And it does. And like
It
the more of them
does.
that and like the more of them that the more collective stupid they have, the more collective like stuff that works for them.
Yeah, it's like it's so weird. But
I,
it's also kind of interesting too that the fantasy orcs are just like actual orcs. Like they reproduce biologically,
right.
standard.
One
But
thing I've considered is the orc psionic power seems to
yeah,
be the like in my mind seems to be like now the most powerful magic, I guess, in that universe. Not in that like it's got like world destroying abilities, but more
mm,
like that like it doesn't matter what magic or logic is being used against them. If they believe something and it's within that power, it's going to happen. Like they go into like the giant rift that has opened in the universe, right?
the gate, or the what is it called? The
Like the
Hell
maw
Gate.
or
That's just
something.
it's just called the Hell Gate.
Yeah, so like
Oh,
any
it's the
other
Eye
like
of Terror.
yeah, the Eye of Terror, like it's like the most powerful thing to go on, and like, but because they believe that going through that takes you to the best fights in the universe, and so it does. Like, it doesn't matter that that's like a super powerful object or gate that like takes you to hell. Like, just because they believe it, like their powers are able to override that.
Yeah, so there's a story of like this really big war clan of orcs right into the Eye of Terror, and fought the war god Korn basically, and he had to be like, "You guys need to leave. This is not good." Oh
This is
yeah, they could like. What do you say?
there's an orc boy for you.
There he is. So, like I was saying about like Total War Warhammer Fantasy, like the orcs are like normal biological like green humans, like they reproduce regularly. But
Yeah,
in like 40K, they're technically set in sentient mushrooms.
yeah, they're fungus basically.
Yeah, so like the only way to get rid of them is like burning them, and then
Mm.
otherwise they will like leave droplets or whatever spores, and more orcs will spawn up in over time.
So they get more powerful and bigger and jacked up with like all the violence and adrenaline they have, right? But then also all the violence and adrenaline makes them shed more spores. So basically, battle is how they exist and reproduce.
So if you fight an orc, you're technically having sex with an orc.
In the technical sense. Um,
Yeah,
so you want
which
to
is
hear about?
also
You
kind
want
of. I was just gonna throw out another fun fact that
Yeah.
the orcs actually have a form of currency.
What is
You
it?
know this? It's
Mm.
their teeth. So like
That-
they shed their teeth all the time, so they use them as currency, but they also dissolve over a certain period of time. So, like the bigger the tooth is, the more more it is. And so basically, they have a form of currency and economics that is inflation proof.
because they just have to constantly well, first of all, it constantly reproduces itself,
Yes,
but and it's like, but like the size has enough scarcity that it still retains its value.
exactly. And also, if you know orc is actually poor, because eventually they will shed their own teeth anyway, and they could eventually have some kind of wealth to barter with. Again, their teeth do dissolve over time, so then again, inflation proof.
Jarrett, it's orconomics. Yeah. Okay. Fine. Fine. Fuck you. Anyway, so you want to hear?
That
So
was terrible.
I've been kind of camping out in like some lore in 40K that I discovered recently, because there's so much lore. You can just basically like just sort of like live in like certain sections of lore if you want.
Oh
So
yeah,
the one I've been getting into is called the Octarius War. Have you heard about this?
I'm not.
So this is like a very very recent lore in the 40K universe. And
Yeah,
basically, what happened is like a Grand Inquisitor, I think it was, got the idea of basically to do the cane toad solution for the orcs and Tyranids.
yeah.
Like, so
Let
like
them fight.
basically, yeah, let them fight, but it makes everything just way worse. Uh, Again, just gonna mansplain this right now to the universe. In Australia, in like the 80s, I think it was, they were having a
Mhm.
problem in their crops with like these this certain type of beetles. So the government was like, "Oh wait, let's bring in these cane toads from like Indonesia, and they'll eat up the beetles, and it'll be great." But then the cane toads basically ignored the beetles and became a million times worse invasive species.
It's
Uh,
the poster child for invasive species, basically.
yeah, it's a man-made problem of invasive species. Anyway, so this Inquisitor was like, let's solve this orc problem in the Octarius sector by throwing Tyranids at them. And so they caught some like Tyranid uh gene splicers, I think they are gene stealers. Yeah, gene
The
stealers.
Steelers, yeah.
Yeah, and they pushed them towards the Octarius sector. And then a section of the Tyranid fleet followed, and what erupted was this massive battle between the Tyranids and the orcs. Uh, and long story short, the Tyranids ended up winning, but so and even the mighty Gaz got involved at one point. Like he showed up and like
Really.
helped rally the troops. Yeah, and then he fucked right off and like went to invade like the core worlds basically, and so it just made everything like it didn't help. It made everything a million times worse because the Tyranids like adapted and gained like tons of biomass from these orcs, right?
Yeah.
And then these orcs, the ones that survived, ended up being like just super jacked up and more powerful than they were before.
Because they fought such a hard fight against the Tyranids.
Exactly. I mean, like, and the orcs. This is like Disneyland for them. They love this shit. So they yeah. So basically, what happened is at the very end, the Tyranid hive master killed
Mm.
their war boss and of that sector, and now there's like five other war underbosses that are like vying for that position and fighting each other along with the Tyranids. So it's like ongoing, but it's basically a Tyranid victory.
I mean, anything like Tyranid victory is so weird because like Tyranid victory means there's nothing but Tyranids. It's so strange. It's like
Yeah,
it's a bad word, but it's alien, you know?
yeah. Well, we don't know. We don't
Yeah,
know if that's we don't know if that's the final victory for them because they
yeah.
are from the edge of the known universe. We don't. There's apparently rumblings that what we've seen of the Tyranid fleet is really just the scout of their main fleet.
So I have a theory about that.
Yeah.
Oh, I believe the Tyranids are the basically the natural like life cycle of the universe, right?
Right.
This isn't like the main part of the fleet. This is basically kind of it, but they're gonna roll over everybody eventually.
Yeah.
But they basically consume all the biomass and then they move on, right? But
Yeah.
they kind of like, and then they leave everything in the universe, right? And then just keep moving back. So, but they move, but they don't have light drives or anything. So they actually move as fast as they move in space. That's it.
Yeah.
What I believe is that they consume something in one side of the universe, they move on, and then by the time like they move on, new life and new civilizations have already cropped up, right? And they already hit their peaks. By the time the Tyranids come back, they kind of like set everything back down to zero, get rid of pollution, get rid of everything, and give every planet like a chance to survive, basically.
So it's like the rinse cycle of the universe going through.
Yeah, because if you look at the what's the civilizations of 40K, like the orcs, the necrons, the human race, they're kind of really fucked up or way past their prime, right?
Yeah. Or
Like
they're all basically dead cultures that can't go anywhere from here on out.
exactly. The only one that is a culture on the rise is kind of the Tau. So I believe this is like this part of the universe's time. You know, it's let go. Okay, not, the Tyranids are here to just let it scrub it all clean, and like the edge of the universe that they came from, like that's springing with new life and new civilizations and whatnot.
But you said they don't have light drive, so it could take them thousands, if not millions, of years to reach various parts of space.
Exactly, giving them enough time to build up, expand, and have their natural life cycle.
I haven't. Now you got me thinking. I don't know if I've checked this. They don't have access to the warp at this point.
No, well, no, they don't use the warp at all. Like that's the thing. Like this whole point of the Tyranids are to consume biomass and become better, right?
Yeah.
But they don't use technology, which is that would give them a distinct advantage. A something that consumes things and creates soldiers out of nothing, but can also use technology. They
Yeah.
distinctly don't get absorb the distinct intellect, and if they do, they absorb that intellect, but don't use like warp drives or high or like nuclear weapons or anything. They are just
It,
about biomass and putting everything back to zero.
yeah. So the only intelligence they seem to absorb is tactical intelligence.
Exactly. Instead of like things that would actually destroy things permanently, like planet destroying weapons, nuclear weapons, or anything, or like industry or anything. They only want to consume the biomass to continue forward, not actually destroy what they're on. I think literally they're one of the only factions that doesn't have the capability or have or want to destroy the actual planet. Uh, the Imperium could destroy a whole planet within a day, and that's just like before breakfast.
Yeah.
But
So
and like the orcs do that too. The Necrons, Chaos, everything does that except for the Tyranids.
yeah. So yeah. If this Octarius War is basically setting up it's basically setting the stage, I think, for the next iteration of the next edition of Warhammer 40K's story. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, they basically fuck themselves over real good. Sorry we keep dropping the F bomb here. But it's Warhammer. It's for adults.
This is this episode is rated 18 plus.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
yeah, it's
No
dangerous.
kids here. No babies allowed. Only men.
Only men play with these little figurines. Where I've enjoyed like brushing up on the lore, getting into Warhammer 40k. I do not have the time, money, or brain space to get into the actual tabletop gaming at this point. Maybe sometime down the road.
It's chess for people who thought chess needed more math.
But like it balances out because you're doing math for like little figures of a guy going like, where's my chopper, boss?
Get to the chopper. That would actually be fun to do. But I actually have another update. It's not really orc related, but it's a new game. It's called Tales of the Shire. Kind of work related.
Absolute 180 from what we were talking about a second ago, as far as
this is a
tone.
As far as tone. So Tales of the Shire, we don't really know anything about it yet, but it might be a animal-esque, like Animal Crossing, like cozy game. Like you're just in the
like
Shire.
Stardew Valley.
Yeah, which is a game I didn't know I needed, but I definitely want.
Yeah, so we've seen this trailer, which this little book is from. We haven't seen any gameplay. We've seen just kind of like a poster that gives a very Animal Crossing, just blue sky and clouds and Shire. So my predictions are you're going to be gardening, you're going to be making second breakfast, you're going to be singing Hobbit songs. Like that's it. Like
Merry and Pippin are getting PTSD in the trenches of Minas Tirith, and then like you're playing as a hobbit, just like his biggest worry is that the crows get to his squash a little too early in the season.
Well, honestly though, like this is a very, very important part of the Lord of the Rings stories that often gets overlooked or hasn't really been explored, and that is the Shire is the goal. The Shire is home, and it's where it's what they're fighting for. And like we don't really really like inhabit the Shire a lot in these stories. It's more of just like a kind of it's more of like it's I don't know. I'm gonna get really literature broy here, but it's like in the Odyssey, it's Ithaca. It's something. Honestly, it's a lot for Frodo. That really is it, because in the Odyssey, the whole thing is Odysseus goes through this massive journey and kills all these monsters and shit, and he gets back to Ithaca that he's been trying to get back to for decades, and it just doesn't fulfill him, and it's not what he was looking for, and it's different. I think same thing with Frodo.
It's true. When you read the books, definitely for all the hobbits, the Shire was just a place they lived in at first, but then it becomes this idea, this something that they need to get back to. Second breakfast, the ales, the people that live there, the blue skies. But then I think the movies do it really well, is that they get back and they're just kind of like, they sit there and it's something, it doesn't fulfill them anymore. Maybe there's something that's missing. But Sam goes out of his way to not just sit there with the Shire. He goes out and creates something. He gets married. He has kids. He fulfills his life. Whereas Frodo kind of is just like, this is it. I was there and now I'm back again, and that's it. That's the end.
Yeah. Well, he went through like severe psychological trauma. Not just like, people forget about this. Not just the like the carrying the ring and like the Mount Doom and all of that, but he got stabbed with the Nazgul blade, which causes severe not only physical but psychological trauma for like the rest of your life. It's for the guy who like Tolkien hated metaphors, and he's like, I didn't base this on World War One. It's like, didn't you though?
I think it's kind of like the metaphors are what the reader, I think, really goes into, but also like going to psychological trauma. He at the end, he was taken over by the ring. Like his mind was not his own, and then suddenly Like it's not like he snaps out of it. Towards the end, like basically Frodo is like determining what Frodo is without the ring now.
Yeah,
Uh, and
it's
he
it's become such
functionally
a part of
dies,
him.
and they get him all the way from Mordor back to Rivendell, and he doesn't wake up the entire time. So he's in like a coma, for like
Yeah,
what, a
he's
month
lost
at
brain
least.
function.
Yeah, yeah, go. You can go to the elf lands. Yeah, buddy, you need to take a break.
And I haven't seen like the new version, but the like 1920 something version of All's Quiet on the Western Front. You've seen
Yeah.
that, right? So like
Oh
same exact
yeah.
thing, where like this young guy who's a German soldier, he goes off to war in World War I. He gets sold. He and his friends get sold on this idea that's going to be this grand adventure, and he gets obviously rolled and traumatized, and he goes back home for leave for a few days, and he's just basically like no one gets it, no one understands what's going on, and he's so traumatized and like disillusioned that he's just like I've got a couple of days left, but I'm going back. I can't handle
Yeah.
it here.
It's kind of what I find really interesting about that book is when he does for like he's back home. Somebody asks him about the war, and he's just like he just stays there for a second. He's like, "What do you mean? What about the war? You know, like something that he's experiencing now he has to put into words.
Yeah,
Very difficult." But the Shire is not gonna be like that. The Tales of the Shire is just gonna be a cozy little time. Just have your tea, maybe some crumpets, and have your second breakfast with a good time.
yeah. The game developers must have at 2020 watched us all going through the biggest trauma collectively of our lives in playing Animal Crossing and Stardew Valley to try to keep the demons at bay. They're like, we've got you for the
We
next
got you.
one.
We got
You
you.
guys are gonna,
It's just gonna be a simulator of you just going from room to room, writing a book, and having tea. Okay,
you,
do that.
you guys are gonna need more content for the next wave of COVID, so we got you.
Round two. Let's lock this down. Woo!
Uh,
Yeah.
so yeah, that's it. All right. What else we got?
So, I just wanted to tell us funny stories about Warhammer 2. I really do like this game. It's very based on strategy and everything.
Yeah,
And I really like playing as the High Elves because why play as the bad guys when I can be the good guy?
yeah.
So, I like trying to play as this character Imric. So he's in like one of the worst fucking starting positions in the entire game. He's right between Deathmaster Snitch, which is a Skaven lord who will absolutely just bring waves upon waves of just Skaven slaves at you until you're worn down. And then I'll do is I'll spend like the majority of my time just dealing with this son of a bitch and just getting him worn down. And I finally got it down to a science. All right, I did it. Like within 5 turns, I got him out of the game, and I could just focus on what I'm doing. And guess who comes barreling out of the fucking west?
I'm guessing it's an orc.
Imgor Ironhide. And not only has
There
he
he
just,
is.
there he is, happy as can be. And he's not like ranked like maybe like just above me or just below me. No, he's rank 1. Like he could field at least 5 to 6 armies when I can only field like 1. He just steamrolls me, and I cannot for the life of me get
So
this
you're
to work
you're
in my favor.
you don't have the boys, you don't have the choppers, you don't have the spitters. What do they call guns? Shooters.
They belches. Just like how they call dwarves stunties.
Yeah, like a stuntman.
Um, yeah.
So,
That's
so Grimgor is a fantasy orc. So he's not a
mm,
fungus. He is like an actual. He's an actual
actual orc.
troll-like being. Yeah.
But he's like but what they do in so you have different factions of the same race like high elves, orcs, dwarves, etc., etc. So it's very hard to confederate, get them to join your faction, right?
Hmm.
So if you're working as high elves, it's very hard to get other high elves to work with you. With dwarves and same with vampires, same with all of them, except because orcs love their fighting. If you have a war like an orc war clan that is just really a lot stronger than the other ones. Instant confederation, like
Mhm.
very easy. So these guys can become a threat very quickly in the game.
I gotcha.
Yeah,
So
that's what you
that's
got to watch out for.
yeah. I don't know. I'm gonna stick to my lizard men.
You're not good at the lizard men, Jimmy.
I okay. So what? I've only got one strategy and it never works.
And no good. You're never gonna be good if you're gonna play the lizard men, Jimmy.
So what? I only know how to swarm with cavalry in one desperate charge.
Oh my god. Yeah. We did for anybody that we have hasn't heard the story, we played a 2v2. Jimmy was on my side and we're playing against two actual kind of seasoned players. I
Yeah.
was a Skaven. I brought a mixture of my army and it was perfect. I look over at Jimmy's army that's supposed to be supporting me. All cavalry, no support, nothing.
None
Absolutely
whatsoever.
nothing. None whatsoever. And I just think, oh my god, we just lost and we haven't even done anything yet. I just
But
scream at him and just say, Jimmy, just charge them, just wear them down. I don't know. We did end up winning that like by literally the skin of our teeth. You didn't have any units left. Like it was
and
just
like,
my
well,
Skaven.
like okay. So what? This hasn't worked any single other time I've tried it. But what did work about that round was I swarmed one of the guys. The guy was playing Beastmen. I swarmed
Yeah.
his units, got him whittled down, and then by the time like the last quarter of the match was there, what I had left were basically two units of like big burly bodyguard type guys, and they were able to they were like able to do cleanup because they're like everyone's units, they had like more units, but they weren't as fresh and they weren't as strong at that point. So like the
Yeah.
my burly guys were able to take him out.
So like in Warhammer Total War Fantasy, what you're supposed to do with cavalry, you're supposed to cycle charge them out. You know, put them in, take them out, put them in. That's how they're really, really effective. I mean, did not do that. He just
Jimmy,
basically he just threw them in there and just like, I've done all I can do.
just a charge of the light brigade. And just like it's like, yeah, this may be the day the strength of lizard men fail, but that is not this day. We
And
ride.
I'm facing the other side of the map, which is the I'm facing down one player, and he's got Skaven too, but he didn't have any artillery, so it was just me and a lot of his Skaven, which was really tough. And then I turn over, and then there's just like Jimmy's just in there. He's just like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. It's not working for me, Jared. I'm like, okay.
Just sent them in like the Dothraki.
Yeah.
All
But
right,
yeah, we have to do that again.
all right, what else you got, Jarrett?
For me, I do have one more game coming up that I was interested in. Maybe not to play, but just as general view of how the world of gaming is. It's the
Okay,
new Assassin's Creed Mirage that's coming out October 5th.
why are you interested
I
in this
think,
game? They crap out an Assassin's Creed every 2 years, anyways.
yeah, but I distinctly remember when there was a new Assassin's Creed game, the entire internet shut down for their trailers. Like their trailers were peak performance of what how you do marketing is
That
their
was
trailers just perfect.
yeah. People would take off work to watch E3 to see the new Assassin's Creed trailers.
Yeah, and like I found out about this game today. Like I had no idea. And I saw its trailer and it's terrible. It's a terrible looking game. And I'm just like, how the mighty have fallen, you know?
Well, what looks specifically terrible about it?
Just like the trailer was not great graphics, you know, it didn't really show anything interesting. The old Assassin's Creeds, where if you don't say anything about them, they're at least one thing. They are visually spectacular with tons of color, dynamics. It's action packed. This was kind of not really there. It's like you know how like there's a really good like sci-fi movie with really good really high budget and it looks really cool. It's a good story. Then the second one comes out and like they didn't spend enough money on CGI.
Yeah, Yeah,
It's like that.
they gave a bigger budget, but it ended up not going to the special effects.
Yeah, exactly.
I got you. So yeah, Assassin's Creed and I have a rocky relationship in that I've hated it forever and refused to play it for entirely petty reasons. Like, there's no good reason. It's had nothing to do with the gameplay. I have just entirely my
I
own
know.
petty reasons. You've heard a lot about this. What
Oh yeah.
strikes me about this is much like this Assassin's Creed, Call of Duty, Halo, even. I'm trying to think of another one. So these were games that, like, when I was, like, in middle school, high school, these were like at peak popularity. Like I said, when like the new Assassin's Creed, like especially Call of Duty, like when the new Call of Duty came out, would come out basically every year. You wouldn't see kids for like 2 or 3 days as they went and got the new Call of Duty and then just took off school.
Yeah.
Like, it was that big. Nowadays, I don't think that like any game really has that equivalent. Like they come out with there's no franchise that has that at this point.
Starfield was pretty big. But and also Boulder Gates was really really big. Yeah, but nothing like what you're talking about, like the shutdown or like of like like whole game stops or like people are
Yeah.
just taking off from work. Like it's just
Like
like I think it's because gaming is becoming more accessible that
mhm.
people are actually able to find more time to do it on their own. You
Yeah.
know,
And specifically, I think that the franchise is over because, like you say, like Baldur's Gate, what was the other one you mentioned? Starfield. Those are
Starfield.
not like those are not like these Assassin's Creed and Call of Duties where they've got decade spanning franchises with many 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 games. They're some like they're semi franchises, but they're really kind of one offs when it comes
Yeah.
to their games and their developments. The
I
closest
will.
thing I think
Sorry, what were you saying?
I said the closest thing I think that is still around is Star Wars Battlefront, but there's only been a couple of those.
That's fair. I will say that the closest thing that we will see again of that might be Elder Scrolls 6. However, this is a big, big however. The launch of Starfield was not without its problems, and it's still kind of a lackluster game by comparison. So, Elder Scrolls 6, people are going to be really excited to play this game, but if it doesn't live up to even a tenth of the expectations that Elder Scrolls 5 had, there's no way. Like, people are not going to get it.
Yeah, and Elder Scrolls V, Skyrim, best game ever made ever, was a genre slash industry defining game.
That's why they keep releasing it every 5 years.
Yeah. Honestly though, we play Fortnite a lot because it's just turn your brain off game. One thing that really gets me about Fortnite, I've said this a million times, I'll say it again, is the ease of movement. Like, you can jump over anything, you can you can smash through anything, you can go basically anywhere you want in that game, and it's very smooth, very dynamic movement. Versus then I try to switch over to Skyrim, and it feels very rigid and very controlled by comparison. So it's I need to find maybe I could give Assassin's Creed a shot at this point if it's got that kind of movement involved.
I think maybe you have to play around with your controls a little bit, but I do understand what you're talking about. It's also, I think Fortnite is very accessible too.
Yeah.
I don't have to be in a real mood to play it. Like even with Warhammer that I really like to play, I kind of have to be in a mood to play it. But I get what you're talking about. Like with the movement is just kind of not there in some games, and I understand.
Yeah. So we're getting up there on time. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about before we go?
I want to talk about a movie that I am super fucking pumped for.
All right, let's hear it.
Okay, so I've been waiting to watch Shin Godzilla. I haven't gotten around to it yet. It looks amazing, but there's a movie that I'm gonna see in theaters. I'll tell you right now, I will find a theater and I'll watch it, and it is gonna be
Okay.
Godzilla minus one.
Yeah, we're big
Oh,
Godzilla fans. Yeah,
I
and this
think
looks like it goes back to basics.
yeah. So it distinctly that because of the original source material of Godzilla, post World War II, Japan, they distinctly didn't really do a lot with that in the Godzilla franchise. They did it a couple of times, but nothing like this. Not like fully going back to like a full reboot to like like post World War II. So this is gonna be that movie. This is like
Yeah.
this is like the remake of the 1955 classic.
Yeah. So one, yeah, it looks like Godzilla is much shorter. Because really they only really scaled up Godzilla so that he could scale up with buildings but this is gonna be 1940s Japan. So it looks like is this takes place like in Japan, like directly post World War II. And it's like the taglines in the trailers are basically like after the war Japan was at 0, and then Godzilla shows up and they're at -1.
So that was the direct line from. So it's based on the quote from Tojo after World War II. Basically, he said that we were. Basically, I'm paraphrasing here. He said that we were on top of the world before the war, but after the war, we were reduced to 0. And what their tagline say is basically Godzilla put them to negatives.
Yeah.
It looks amazing.
Yeah, it looks like what the 2014 Godzilla was probably originally trying to go with making Godzilla, a force of nature and something that humans had to deal with.
Yeah.
If I will never say anything bad about the original Godzilla, the 2014 Godzilla's trailer. Have you seen that one with the Oppenheimer quote?
Oh, yeah.
So, spoiling it for people. You know what? I might even be able to bring it up. Should we watch it here?
Yes, sure.
Okay, all right.
We look it up again?
Yeah, your screen's gonna go wonky for a second, so bear with me here.
Okay. But yeah, I'm really excited. I've always been a big Godzilla fan. As I've aged, the older Godzillas, like the rubber suits, not excluding the actual original, kind of don't really do it for me. Like, I don't like the Toho stuff. I didn't really like it that much, especially as I aged up. Then what really renewed my love of it is obviously Godzilla 2014. It's just like a great monster movie. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but I really liked it. I can't wait to watch Shin Godzilla. I haven't gotten around to watching that yet. This, I think, is gonna be my Oppenheimer to watch in a theater.
Let's see if this works. Yep, there we go. Okay, so I don't think you can hear the trailer, but can you see it?
Yes, I can.
All right. Try to. You should go to YouTube.
Okay. Yep.
Look up Godzilla Oppenheimer trailer.
It's an A, not a Oppen.
Oppen. So this
All
was
right,
like all
I
when I watched the actual Oppenheimer movie. This was all I could think of.
Wait,
Okay.
is it just the Oppenheimer movie or the Oppenheimer 2014 Comic-Con teaser trailer?
Yeah, the Comic-Con teaser.
Okay.
All right, so we're gonna play this at the same time. Ready?
Yep.
And 3, 2, 1, play. Like the build-up.
Oh yeah.
He knew the world would not be the same.
Oh yeah, I remember this movie.
Few people cried. Most people were silent.
Imagine watching this in an IMAX theater. Like honestly.
Right.
From the Hindu scripture.
Like this gives me chills every single time.
Yeah, and the Halo jump is a spectacular bit of like just thematic universe.
Oh, look at this right here.
Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds.
Just chills every single time.
Yes.
And then yeah, like just the music, the reveal.
Yeah.
like this. Like that made me genuinely excited for Godzilla again.
Yeah. We saw it together in theaters, didn't we?
Yeah, yeah. I saw it in I first saw it at the drive-in and then saw it in theaters with you. Um,
Yeah.
I was disappointed by the movie because I thought that like that trailer was gonna set the tone for it, right?
Yeah.
And it
It's
kind of did.
so the director of this movie was have you seen the movie Monsters?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a really good, yeah, really good indie
It's
movie.
a really good indie movie, but the kind of the point of the monsters is you don't really see a ton of them. They're kind of more of a background character, right? So that's kind of the way he took it. You know, everybody wants to see more and more Godzilla, but uh it gave us just enough to really understand like how big and menacing these creatures are, but it's kind of like a hurricane disaster movie. You don't really have 30 minutes of just like hurricane shots, you know?
Right. Well, here's the thing. Godzilla started off as like a hurricane. Like in the original, like I think it was 1954 one, which
Yeah.
Godzilla minus one is going to be like. Godzilla is more like a hurricane. He's like a force of nature. He's a metaphor for nuclear war. Uh,
Mm.
and then as things went, the years went on, he basically turned into a kid's character, and his movies are basically Power Rangers.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
and so that's and so I'm not bashing on people for wanting to see more Godzilla and more like more fights and stuff because like that's what made me fall in love with it as a kid. But like
Yeah.
I could definitely see how I got the feeling in the 2014 movie that like that was a movie that the studio stepped in and was like, no, we need more of this, more, and like so that's and then obviously in the subsequent sequels, like you say, they just turned Godzilla into a dog.
I mean, honestly, that's kind of what they do with a lot of movie monsters is just turning them into basically dogs, you know?
Yeah,
Like Jurassic World, like these are really dangerous animals, and then just like, oh, it's blue, yay!
yeah. I got this from a YouTube comments section actually.
Yeah,
Because I looked up some scenes from the latest Jurassic World movie, which just skip it.
it's horrible.
Uh, and like one of the comments was like, first of all, like it's super anticlimactic, but they're also like, remember in the original one where like you didn't feel safe around these dinosaurs ever, versus like they're like, oh, the T-Rex is coming in and it's saving them basically. Or like Blue is like the good dinosaur, like these were monsters that you did not feel safe around ever, and you just are
It was
unsettled.
they were theme park monsters.
Yeah,
Um, I think the only dinosaur they felt safe around was the Triceratops, but that was distinctly like us one scenario, right?
yeah, yeah,
But I was like thinking of or what?
or the Brachiosaurus.
Or the Brachiosaurus, yeah. But like I was thinking about it. Okay, like if if we had a containment breach of dinosaurs, what would be the most dangerous? It actually would probably not be the carnivores. It would be like the Triceratops. It would be the Stegosaurus. You know, very like. All right, here's a question for you, Jimmy.
Yeah,
Let me know if you know this. What animal, besides insects and of course, venomous animals, what animal contributes to the most human deaths per year?
that's not. Uh, oh, I know this one.
Is it?
Cows.
It is not cows.
Really? Like
It
I
is
figured it would be
hippos.
hippos. Okay.
Hippos are incredibly territorial, and they
So
are
here,
found in a lot of places.
here's my logic is like the reason cows would cause a lot of it is because there's like so much like people are around cows a lot more, so there's just a lot more
Yeah.
reason for like opportunity for them to like hurt and or injure and or kill people basically, not
That is
because they're
100.
necessarily.
That is 100% fair, but they are also domesticated animals. They are around people a lot more.
Mhm.
Whereas hippos are wild animals, and they just see a flesh creature that is in their turf. you know.
But that also lends to how dangerous they are, because there's like a billion cows in the world and they're around people all the time. And there's like 10 hippos left, because we hunt all these animals to extinction. There's like 10 hippos left and they end up killing all these people.
If you would be surprised that actually hippos is one of those species that is not endangered of humans right now. You know, obviously global warming and pollution, that is a really big problem. There are hippos in the Amazon rainforest.
Right, because what was it, Pablo Escobar?
Pablo Escobar or something just like liked them, and then they were released. But yeah, so like they're not really, actually surprisingly, they're not really an invasive species. They kind of are, but they're not. They're just kind of chilling.
They're not like causing irreparable damage to the environment at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, they're just kind yeah, they're just like herbivores, you know. Just kind of eating their stuff, and they don't really kill a lot of things because there's not really a lot of large mammals or carnivores there anyway.
And
But yeah,
they're not like snakes, like, the snakes in the Everglades, where they lay like a massive clutch of eggs every year.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, hippos are massively territorial, and they are very ferocious. They are going to hunt you down, kind of animals. So yeah, that's what a triceratops would be like. You know, they would be stampeding and rampaging. They are the danger.
So okay, so I thought of this. There's a TikTok going around. There's a TikTok going around talking about how, like, John Hammond in Jurassic Park, he gets up and he does like the presentation where he's like talking to himself on the screen and talking to Mr. DNA. And people are like, the response is like, you're telling me that John Hammond, the billionaire, was going to go up like for 5 shows a week and 2 matinees to do like the intro for this Jurassic Park world, for all the guests. And my response was no, it's going to be some college student in the Jurassic Park college program. They're gonna it's like some poor 20-year-old schmuck who's like a semester away from a paleobiology degree, but they're like, you're gonna do the tour.
Yeah. That's where you're wrong, you ignorant slut. So John Hammond is going to be there for every birth of every dinosaur, remember. It's not about the logistics of it all. It's about his god complex. When people get there and are in awe of like the creations and the monsters and like and the scientific ability, he wants to be there. That's the point. Is that there's no facet of this whole enterprise that he's not going to be present for as a god, but he doesn't have actual control over.
So okay, but like, so he's gonna do the intro tour for all these people. They'd be like Walt Disney show. So that'd be like Walt Disney like doing like strapping people in for It's a Small World.
Or maybe it's just like it's like the alpha of like the ride, just for like investors and stuff. But the actual like you said, this is gonna have like music accompaniment at a certain point. And that would be like for the actual like people that would have like an actor or a couple of actors involved, or maybe like change it up where he says like a couple of names or something.
But the point being is, I saw that video and I couldn't help but thinking, what would it be like for what would it look like for someone to be in the Jurassic Park college program? Like they would like make them jump through all these hoops, apply, like fight tooth and nail with other college applicants, and then they're like, okay, and they all think that they're going to be like paleontologists and working with the T-Rex, but then they end up flipping burgers or strapping people into rides. And then they know all the dirty secrets. They're like, okay, here's the protocol for if the raptors get loose.
Oh, then some freaking tween is gonna get sued into the ground when he's like, these are not real dinosaurs, and they know they're not real dinosaurs, but they keep marketing them as real dinosaurs. Even had Dr. Grant and Ali Sattler over here, and they like told them that it was a big shit show, and they just dismissed them. Also, a whole dude died.
Like, I saw my roommate get eaten in front of me, but I signed an NDA, so I can't tell anyone about it.
Let's like Vought. right there.
Yeah, the obvious parallels are obvious.
Yeah. But then there's like also they're in like the what Caribbean waters that are always hit with like tropical storms and shit, and they'd have to like import every single bit of food and merchandise every single time. It's just like a logistical nightmare.
Exactly. Well, yeah, that's the many there's so many angles to this dangle when it comes to how it's the folly of man and the story of our hubris and desire. But yeah, you get put off because they have Santa Claus playing John Hammond.
Which he did such a good job. He did such a good job as John Hammond.
He did. Like
No
that person
offense.
like apparently like John Hammond in the books is like a massive piece of shit. So
Yeah, he's. I think for me in the books, John Hammond definitely it comes across as more of like just like a money man, a guy who's just like, all right, I'm gonna do this. And whereas John Hammond in the movies definitely just is kind of like this guy who just wants to bring a certain sense of wonder in the world, but caught lightning in a bottle and wants to show it to a kid.
yeah. Okay, so we are up there on time. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
Not for me. Do you have anything?
I think that's it for this week, man. We got lots coming out. Next it's spooky month in a couple of days.
Mm.
And yeah, so next month hopefully we can talk about, all of our spooky stuff. I'll be talking a lot about Dracula. I'm doing my Dracula watch this month. And yeah, so check out for These Haunted Trails, our next episode is going to be coming out soon.
Yeah, our
in time
friends
for
over at
Halloween,
These Haunted Trails.
which are also us.
Yeah, which is us. We know them so well.
Jimmy's not only me, he's also my best friend.
Yeah, Jared and I don't talk anymore. We're growing apart.
We don't talk outside the business. We're basically the Aerosmith. We have to be in separate hotels in separate towns whenever we get together for a show.
And then we kind of just show up and do our stuff, and then we bounce.
It is what it is. It really is. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. Remember, if you want to wake up in the morning fresh and fit, some Big Nerd Coffee Company in you. They know what Orktober's about.
The disclaimer: just Big Nerd Coffee Company alone will not make you fit.
Oh, not at all. You need to actually do stuff about that. It's horrible. Ever tried exercising, Jimmy? It sucks.
But yeah, as long as you hydrate, give you a little kick before the gym. Yeah, so there you go. But yeah, check out Big Nerd Coffee Company, based out of Bell's Country Coffee in Elmira, New York. They've got these monthly small batch roasts that are delish. I highly recommend.
Yes. But that's it for our episode. If you guys have any questions or comments you'd like to ask us live on air, just message us on our Facebook or Instagram with your question or comment with your name and preferred pronouns, and we'll answer it live on air.
All right, thank you guys so much for watching. We will catch you next month. This is Jimmy.
This is Jerry.